Physical principles govern blood circulation. Blood vessel structure and function. All blood vessels are composed of similar tissues. Different structures between blood vessels specify their functions. Remember, structure dictates function. Arteries have, from outer layer to inner layer, A. Connective tissue with elastic fibers. B. Smooth muscle with elastic fibers. C. Endothelium, a single layer of cells. Its smooth surface minimizes resistance to the flow of blood. Endothelium is found in all blood vessels. Function. Blood is pumped at a rapid pace from the heart to the arteries. The thick walls of connective tissue and smooth muscle provide support for this rapid pumping. Veins have, from the outer layer to the inner layer, A. The same as arteries except thinner layers of connective tissue and smooth muscle. B. Valves that prevent the backflow of blood. Its function. Blood flows back to the heart at a slower rate and pressure within the veins, so the veins do not require thick layers like the arteries. Capillaries have A. Endothelium. B. A basement membrane. Its function. Capillaries have thin walls so that it is easier for exchange of substances between the blood within the capillary and the surrounding fluid outside the capillary. Blood flow velocity. Law of continuity. The volume of flow per second is constant throughout. For example, if water was traveling through a pipe, it will travel at a faster speed when the pipe's diameter gets narrower, because the volume of water traveling through any section of the pipe has to be the same. Blood flows slower in the capillaries compared to the artery and veins. A single artery will transfer blood to multiple capillaries, so the total volume of blood through all the capillaries is the same as a single artery, so even if a single capillary is thinner than an artery or vein, the blood flows slower in one capillary compared to an artery. The function. Slower the blood flow equals greater time for exchange of substances. Blood pressure. The force that blood exerts on the surfaces of the blood vessels. Systolic pressure. Blood pressure is in the arteries during contraction of the heart. The heart contracts when it pumps blood. Diastolic pressure. Blood pressure between contractions. Blood pressure is influenced by peripheral resistance, cardiac output, and gravity. Peripheral resistance is resistance that's caused when blood flows from a blood vessel with a big diameter to a blood vessel with a smaller diameter. Think of it this way. There is so much blood that it is trying to squeeze into one tiny hole, there's bound to be traffic. Increased peripheral resistance equals increased blood pressure. Peripheral resistance causes blood to accumulate. It takes a while for all the blood to squeeze into a tiny hole, so there will be increased blood pressure, or force that the blood exerts on the blood vessel. When there is a large amount of blood stuck in one place, the vessel, for example, arteries, will stretch to accommodate this blood. Next, the arteries cover and snap back into its regular shape, causing the blood to flow. The arteries stretching is due to the increased blood pressure. As the arteries snap and push the blood, it causes blood flow to increase. So increased blood pressure equals more snapping, which equals increased blood flow. Increased peripheral resistance equals increased blood pressure, which equals increased blood flow. Cardiac output is the volume of blood that is pumped by the heart. Increased cardiac output equals increased blood pressure. With a greater volume of blood pumped, there is more blood within the blood vessel, so there is more force exerted. Cardiac output will adjust according to the peripheral resistance to maintain adequate blood flow. So, if the peripheral resistance decreases, then the cardiac output will increase to maintain blood pressure and thus blood flow. Gravity is gravity. Gravity equals increased blood pressure. For blood to reach your brain against gravity, there must be increased pressure to push all the blood up. One last thing. Veins have practically no pressure because all the pressure from the heart's contraction is reduced by resistances. Blood moves in the veins due to the contractions of muscles. Capillary function. Muscle contractions and precapillary sphincters, substances that control the flow of blood between arterioles and venules, regulate the distribution of blood flow in capillary beds. The way of exchange of substances. Vesicles may carry important substances through endocytosis within the capillary, and then the substance will be released to the outside through exocytosis. Some substances simply diffuse across the membrane. Fluid returns by lymphatic system. Background information. The capillaries will lead to certain blood loss and blood proteins. These lost substances return to the blood by the lymphatic system, which is a system that is separate from the circulatory system and is used to return fluids and proteins to the blood. The process. A. Fluid and other lost items diffuse into lymph capillaries, which is located within the cardiovascular system. B. Lymph. The fluid inside the lymphatic system. C. The lymphatic system will then drain into the circulatory system near the junction of the vena cava within the right atrium. The structure. It contains A. Valves that prevent backflow, and B. Lymph nodes, organs next to lymph vessels, walled structures that carry lymph or the lost fluid. Lymph nodes filters lymph, attack viruses and bacteria. Blood in the closed circulatory systems of vertebrates is a specialized connective tissue. Several kinds of cells are suspended in the liquid matrix called plasma, collectively known as blood. The cells and plasma can be separated via spinning in a centrifuge. The cellular elements make up about 45% of the volume of blood. Blood plasma is about 90% water. Its solutes include inorganic salts in the form of dissolved ions, also known as blood electrolytes. The combined concentration is important in maintaining osmotic balance of blood. Blood in humans normally has a pH of 7.4. The normal functioning of muscles and nerves depends on the concentration of key ions. Plasma. The kidney maintains plasma electrolytes at precise concentrations. Plasma proteins are another important class of solids in plasma. They collectively act as buffers against pH changes, help maintain the osmotic balance between blood and interstitial fluid, and contribute to the blood's viscosity. Various plasma proteins also have specific functions. Some escort lipids. The immunoglobulins, or antibodies, help combat viruses with other foreign agents. Fibrinogens are clotting factors that help plug leaks when blood vessels are injured. Plasma also contains nutrients, metabolic wastes, respiratory gases, and hormones traveling through the body. Cell elements. There are two classes of cells: red blood cells, which transport O2, and white blood cells, which function in defense. Platelets, a third cellular element, are fragments of cells involved in the clotting process. The most numerous blood cells is the red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes. There are about 25 trillion red blood cells in the body's 5 liters of blood. Their main function is to transport O2, which depends on the rapid diffusion of oxygen through their plasma membranes. Human erythrocytes are small discs around 7 to 8.5 nanometers in diameter that are biconcave, that is, thinner in the center than at the edges, providing a large collective surface area for the total population of erythrocytes, and the greater the total area in a given volume of blood, the more rapidly O2 can diffuse. Mammalian erythrocytes lack nuclei, which leave more space in cells for hemoglobin, the iron-containing protein that transports oxygen. Erythrocytes also lack mitochondria and generate their ATP exclusively by anaerobic metabolism. An erythrocyte contains about 250 million molecules of hemoglobin. Each hemoglobin binds up to 4 molecules of O2, and one erythrocyte can transport about 1 billion O2 molecules. Hemoglobin also binds to nitric oxide, which relaxes capillary walls, which aids in the delivery of O2 to the cells.